Good morning and welcome to Chris Bruns, legislative candidate from District 42. Thank you, Chris, for joining us for our virtual legislative candidate meetings. My name is Gina Ragland, and joining me today are AARP lead advocacy volunteers Susan DeCamp, Danny DeLong, Tim Potter, and Mike Barwig. As a reminder, this meeting is being recorded and will be shared with AARP members across your district prior to the election. Chris, we appreciate you're taking the next 30 minutes of your time to meet and discuss issues of importance to the 50-plus voter and their families in your district and across Nebraska. As a little bit of background, AARP is the nation's largest nonprofit, nonpartisan organization dedicated to empowering and strengthening people 50 and older to choose how they live as they age. As people live longer, healthier lives, we know we need to think differently about what it means to age. So with that, Chris, if you want to start us off by giving us a little background about yourself and your campaign, and kind of thinking of 5 minutes or less is a good point of time, that would be great. And then once we've completed your opening, we'll move into the questions. So I'll throw it back to you, Chris. Welcome.
Well, thank you. I appreciate the invitation to come and join in on this conversation. My name is Chris Bruns. I am running for the legislature to represent District 42. Been in the race for July of last year is when I jumped in. So it's been a while. And in that time, I've had the opportunity, the pleasure to get out and meet a variety of amazing individuals all across my district. I was born and raised in the North Platte area, graduated from North Platte High School in 2003, went into the Marine Corps, spent about 10 years in the Marine Corps after high school. When I got out of the Marine Corps, I attended Creighton University in Omaha. My wife works in the healthcare field, and so that allowed me to focus on school. I majored in business administration, got a bachelor's of science in business administration from Creighton, a concentration in entrepreneurship. That's really kind of the thing that gets me up and out of bed in the morning is trying to find ways to provide economic opportunity. I think that's the best way to empower the individuals. So, an opportunity arose for my wife and I to move back home, and we jumped on it. My wife is my high school sweetheart. Together, we have 3 kids, and the North Platte area, Lincoln County, is where we grew up, and that's where we want to raise our family. In my opinion, I'm a bit biased. This is the West Central Nebraska is the best place to live on earth, and I've been all around the world, so I can speak from experience there. Got into the race after serving some time on the county board. I'm currently the chairman of the Lincoln County Commissioners, and I realized in that process that the state legislature really controls a lot of what happens in our state for the local political subdivisions. The 3 areas of focus that I'd like to really have a concerted effort on in the legislature are economic growth for West Central Nebraska and really greater rural Nebraska as a whole. I think, we've had a lot of focus on the Omaha and Lincoln areas, and that's important. They're great centers of gravity for our state, but there's a lot of other areas of our state that are vital to the overall success of all Nebraskans. And so that's a concerted area, an area of concentration for me. I think that in order to do that, it lends well to the other aspect of why I'm running, which is to get our tax policy correct. I think that we've got to find ways to be more competitive regionally and nationwide. And so that's an area of focus for me. And then the third area of focus is just really standing up for our rural values, who we are as Nebraskans, making sure that my district has a strong voice advocating for our district and fighting to make sure that we're able to experience all the great things that the state has to offer and improve the lives of everyday people, the hardworking people that I'm seeking to represent. So that's a little bit about me in a nutshell. The campaign's got great momentum. We won in the primary. We're building on that momentum moving forward into the general, just getting out there in a grassroots approach, which is what led us to victory in the primary, out knocking doors, talking to thousands of people on a regular basis, and very excited about the momentum we have, running like I'm 3 points behind, but feeling cautiously optimistic about things. So that's me in a nutshell. I look forward to this conversation, learning from you all, and really building a relationship that I look forward to leaning on in my time in the legislature moving forward. So.
Wonderful. Thank you, Chris. And thank you for sharing not only about yourself, your family, your bio, but also important, what are your what are your values and what are you bringing with you to the campaign. We appreciate that. And I think I'd be remiss, and most importantly, thank you for your service to our country. We do appreciate that, and thank you. So we are going to move on into the questions now, and we provided you ahead of time with a set of the 3 issues that are important for us in the 50 plus, and there's 4 questions in there. So we've allotted about 5 minutes for each of the questions. And so our first question this morning will come on health, caregiving, and home and community-based services. And Susan DeCamp is going to take that. So I'm going to pass it to you, Susan.
Thanks, Gina. Good morning, Chris. It's nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, Susan.
So home and community-based services, also known as HCBS, provides an array of services to help people with daily living activities that promotes independence and allows them to age in place in their own homes and communities and delay institutional care. Family caregivers also provide care for someone who is not able to live independently. These caregivers are family members, friends, or acquaintances, and oftentimes they provide this care without pay. So we have found that telehealth services can be significant for seniors, particularly in the rural areas or underserved communities. And they can also provide support to these family caregivers by reducing travel, wait times, and other costs associated with caregiving. So we have 2 questions for you along those lines. The first question is, what will you do to support the 240,000 unpaid family caregivers in Nebraska through policies such as enhanced respite services, access to telehealth, caregiver education and training, and help with out-of-pocket expenses? And the second question is, what will you do to protect and or expand the home and community-based services program, particularly in the area of recruitment and retention of a sufficient workforce, and also adequate funding of the services that Nebraskans and their families rely on?
Great questions. Healthcare, especially in our area, is of great importance. And I think that it ties right into my chief reason of why I'm running, which is economic growth. Healthcare is one of those facets, along with, quality access to childcare, affordable housing. All those things tie into a vibrant, growing community and are reasons why businesses and industry look to invest in communities. So in our area in particular, with the geographic dispersion that we have, it's vital that we find ways to promote access to quality healthcare and find ways to also reduce cost. And I think that what we can do in the realm of home healthcare, telehealth, all those services is extremely important. We've got to find ways to bolster the investments in those areas, to make them easier for people such as family members to be able to access, and just really promote that. Because while we have a great health system in the North Platte area, there's communities like Tryon, Nebraska, and other rural villages that don't have that immediate access. And everything that we can do to keep people in their homes, the areas where they're the most comfortable, where they have the most sense of normalcy and independence, is vital. And so you'll find that I'll be a proponent of this. I'll be a proponent of maximizing the investments and really finding ways that we can be efficient in this area in the state legislature. And we can do that through a variety of different measures and legislative action, both from an investment standpoint, from a regulatory standpoint, just seeking to improve those services. When it comes to reimbursement costs, I think that that's important. We've got to find ways to improve that, and especially with the Medicaid patients that we have for providers, and ensuring that the remote access is one of those areas of focus. And I think that will directly tie into what you're discussing in this question. When you talk about the family members, I think that there should be tax breaks that are afforded to family members that are in that healthcare provider capacity. And so that would be things that I would seek as far as legislation in the unicameral. When it comes to recruitment, kind of the second question that you asked, we've got to find ways to improve reciprocity with our neighboring states and really nationwide to ensure that we're breaking down barriers and cutting the red tape for people that have those skills that want to locate in our rural communities, because we do offer great quality of life, that it's easy for them to do so. And so that's an area that occupational licensing, reciprocity of licensure is important to me. That's an area that I'll be working on hard. It's one of those aspects, those tangential aspects of economic growth. And then making sure that we're funding appropriate education. We have the AARP program. I'd like to see that expanded for really a wide variety of healthcare professions. That way we're recruiting our own youth to go into those healthcare fields, because they're going to be in much more demand as we continue to progress into the future, and they're worthwhile. You can find great careers in those fields, and if we can get those young youth, those young adults that are looking to go to college and go to maybe a community college that has the nursing programs and the other aspects that are important to our seniors is they're looking at their long-term healthcare plans. That's important. So finding ways where we can expand the teaching offering in our community colleges and our universities is going to be important in that. Finding ways where we can reimburse on tuition for people that maybe locate into a rural community, much like the AARP program for doctors. I think that's going to be important. And those are areas of focus for me in the legislature.
Great. Thank you for your answers, Chris.
Does that answer your questions?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Very thoughtful and great answer, Chris. Yes, and do appreciate your understanding of caregivers and family. And obviously the rural perspective is near and dear to your heart, and you've portrayed that. So thank you for that. Our second question now goes into more of our facility types of settings for our older residents and of the state. It's nursing facility quality, and Danny DeLong is going to take that. So go ahead, Danny.
Good morning, Chris. Glad to be here with you. Just letting you know that I'm totally in with you on the benefits of living in West Central Nebraska. I was raised in Callaway.
Oh, good deal.
Yeah. And we played St. Pat's in sports. At the time, we were both C schools at that time, and I love that area. And so I know just exactly what you're talking about. And I am gonna touch on an issue that you'll be familiar with. One of the nursing homes, the nursing home in Mullen had to close this year, right up in your area there. Yeah. And we're going to talk about that right now. So over 20,000 Nebraskans require care in either nursing facilities or assisted living communities. We've seen facilities close their doors, citing reimbursement challenges and staffing shortages, both of which, by the way, were cited in Mullen's closure. Nebraska will need an additional 4,700 more nursing assistants, LPNs, and RNs by 2028 to meet Nebraskans' care needs. So that is part of what Susan was asking you about, and we need that assistance. Everyone, regardless of where they reside, deserves to be treated with dignity and respect and to have access to quality medical care. We know that better staff to resident ratios improve the overall quality of care and well-being of residents. Workforce recruitment, retention, and job satisfaction challenges are prevalent across the long-term services and support industry. Causes of workforce challenges must be identified. We've started to do some of that here in our conversation, and implemented to respond to the growing need for high quality care. My question for you is this: what will you do to improve the quality of nursing facility care for Nebraska residents? This will include addressing the growing long-term care workforce crisis in the state, professional education and training, and accountable facility reimbursement.
So I think I touched on some of those aspects in the previous question. And then so I would just reiterate, when it comes to recruitment, we've got to find ways to recruit our youth into those fields. And I touched on some of the programs that I'd like to see, expansion of tuition reimbursement programs for those that relocate or locate themselves in their career into our rural villages in particular. Mullen's not the only one. Down in Perkins County, there's another nursing home that's closing. We have those challenges statewide. And so these programs that I'm talking about, they're beneficial not just for my district, but the entire state. When you talk about the occupational licensing and making sure that we're making it easy for LPNs, RNs, anybody in the medical field to move into our state from Colorado or around the entire region, we've got to streamline that process and make it easier. I think the challenge of workforce recruitment is going to be something that is not easily fixed. It's going to take time, but I'm absolutely committed to working on it because it's a multifaceted issue. And it's going to take a lot of attention to a variety of different topics to address it. The main reason why I think we have the issues, particularly in Mullen and other nursing homes, is the reimbursement rate that our providers get. And we need to make sure that we are doing everything we can to improve that, to increase the reimbursement rate for our providers in those particular situations. We need to allow for good quality nursing staff to have more say in the care that is going on in those facilities. I think that's an area of efficiency that we can improve on to help keep the staff going and make sure that the providers. It's challenging for providers to be able to supervise and do everything. It's hard to get the number of providers in those rural communities. And so if we can entrust our talented and skilled nursing staffs to be able to take some of that load on, still under supervision from the providers, the doctors, that's important. And it's an area that we need to be looking at and discussing. But yeah, the issues, they're complex and they are challenging. And if there was a magic pill that we could have taken to address it, years ago before it reared its head, we would have done that. But we're in this situation now. I'd also add that a lot of the challenges from the people that I'm talking to in the healthcare profession, especially in our rural communities, there's a lot of fatigue because of the pandemic and what transpired there. And thankfully, hopefully, those days are getting behind us and we're going to return to a sense of normalcy in that regard. But at the same time, we need to be prepared for the next time something like this should happen. And what are the policies that we can put in place to ensure that we learn from what happened during the COVID-19 pandemic to prevent that from happening again, to reduce, employment fatigue and everything that transpired in that regard. And so we'll have the lag. It's a lagging effect from the pandemic, but hopefully, the market will help sort some of that out on its own. But we've got to have a concerted effort to address it and expedite that recovery, especially in our healthcare professions. Does that answer your question?
Yes, sir. Thank you. I appreciate the detail that you provided us with. Yeah.
Thank you, Chris. And if only we could solve the problem in the 30 minutes we're here, we'd be doing really well, right?
Yes.
Moving on again, just in the interest of time, our third question now will come on livable communities and helping people stay in their home. And Tim Potter's going to take that one. So go ahead, Tim.
Okay. Thank you, Gina. Thank you, Chris, for being with us today. A livable community is safe and secure, offers affordable housing and transportation options that allow individuals to travel by multiple means and provides supportive community features and services for people of all ages, allowing people to remain in their communities as they age. Affordable and reliable healthcare and transit options are critical to support older Nebraskans aging in place. High-speed internet should be affordable, reliable, and accessible for all Nebraskans. Digital skills development is also essential to obtaining the benefits of high-speed internet and access in the home. So my question is, what will you do to ensure all Nebraskans, mainly those 50 plus, have access to livable communities which offer affordable housing, diverse transportation options, adequate health care, and affordable, reliable, and accessible high-speed internet, including digital skills development?
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack there, right?
Yeah.
Again, all of those things that you just highlighted in your question fall underneath of that economic development and thriving rural communities umbrella, which is an area of focus for me moving forward. And so I think that we need to have strong investment in the programs that already exist for rural workforce housing. In our area, we're seeing some success. We have great success stories on how we're implementing programs for addressing our housing needs. It's still at a crisis level. It's going to take a lot more work to address it. I think that a lot of that can be done at the local level. As far as financing for infrastructure through TIF, tax increment financing for infrastructure for housing. We have a kind of a model project in the North Platte area that we're working on to address that, to really reduce the costs for meaningful, valuable, but affordable housing. And that's an area that's very important. So I'd be working hand in hand with local leaders in the villages and cities throughout rural Nebraska to ensure that they understand programs that do exist, do what we can to increase the investment in those areas through Department of Economic Development, in those housing grants that are already in existence, and just strengthen those programs. When it comes to high-speed internet, one committee that I particularly would love to serve on is the Transportation and Telecommunications Committee. I think that I can be very effective for rural Nebraska on that committee and ensure, because we're going to have hundreds of millions of dollars flowing into our state for increasing access to high-speed connectivity. And I want to make sure that's done right, that we are really serving the communities that really they're drastically underserved, and make sure that because it's in my opinion, it's almost a utility. It should be something that should be viewed in that capacity, because it's vital to being able to live and thrive in the world that we operate in these days. And so I will do everything I can working with the Public Service Commission. They're going to have a lot of authority in this, but we can set state statute guidelines to ensure that it's done in a meaningful, impactful way, in the most efficient way possible that impacts the most Nebraskans for the good. When it comes to training for those skills, again, I lean back on a previous answer that I gave. We've got to improve the education that our community colleges are providing. We've got to really be good partners with those systems from an educational standpoint. And part of that can be done through remote learning. I understand that may provide some challenges for our aging community who may not have the technical skills available to them. But doing what we can to provide the resources necessary as far as that education is concerned is going to be important. I don't have all the answers on how we do that right at this moment. I'm looking forward to working with your organization as well as others to learn from you on areas that may be great ideas that we can get implemented. And I want to make sure that that's clear, that I'll be leaning on your organization and others for the answers, because I'm one person. I'm going to be one person of a body that's 49, and not all of us have the answers. But leaning on the great advice that you guys have and the policy ideas that you have is going to be important. So I don't know that completely answers your question, but hopefully it gives you some insight on where I'm at.
No, we appreciate your views on that. I think that was pretty complete answer.
Okay.
Thank you, Chris. And definitely we appreciate your willingness to have future meetings. And we would definitely, anytime that we can be helpful, we would definitely like to be at the table in those conversations. So thank you for that. As we're coming out of the end of our 30 minutes in our meeting, I would like to offer back to you just some minutes for final comments on closing thoughts, or messages that you'd like to send to members, our members or constituents of your district. So Chris, we have about 3 minutes left. So I'll pass it back to you. If you have any final comments, go ahead.
Well, for your organization, for your members, just know that I will be an advocate. I'll be an advocate for all the people in my district. I stand on my principles, but I also, understand that as an elected representative, we're there to listen to our constituents, to hear out their concerns, no matter where they may be on the spectrum of thought. And so I welcome the dialogue. I welcome the conversation. I want them to be able to reach out to me directly. So I'm going to offer out my cell phone number. That number is 308-660-6049. If any of your members want to get a hold of me directly and have a conversation with me, I highly encourage it, because I want to hear from them. I want to hear what's important to them, the issues, the challenges that they face. For you all in particular, I just want to stress the fact that I will be open, accessible, and transparent, and looking forward to building a great relationship with all of you moving forward in my time in the legislature to get great things done for District 42 and all of Western Nebraska. So I thank you for your time, and just looking forward to wrapping up this campaign and earning the chance to serve District 42 and all Nebraskans.
Perfect. Thank you again, Chris, for taking the time to visit with us. We wish you the best with your campaign, and thank you most importantly for meeting with AARP today. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chris.
Everybody.
Thank you, Chris. See ya.